Hi, my name is Darius Richmond, and this is my argumentative speech. Imagine standing in a courtroom as the judge announces a death sentence. The room is silent, heavy with emotion. A person's life has just been decided by the justice system. For some, that moment represents justice. For others, that represents tragedy. The death penalty, also known as capital punishment, has existed in the United States for centuries. It is one of the most controversial and emotional topics in our legal system. Some believe it's fair punishment for the most serious of crimes. Others believe it's outdated and not right. In my speech, I'm not asking that whoever's listening take sides, but instead I ask that you analyze both sides to show why the death penalty remains one of the hardest moral and legal questions we face. Supporters argue that it delivers justice and deteriorates crime. Opponents believe it's unethical and risks killing the innocent people. Now, I would like to start with the supporters of the death penalty. Supporters of the death penalty ought to begin with one central idea. They want justice. They believe that people who commit murder deserve to face ultimate punishment. The phrase "an eye for an eye" represents the idea that punishment should match the crime. A recent poll, named the Gallup poll, conducted in 2023, found that about 55% of Americans still support the death penalty for convicted murderers. For many, it's about giving victims' families closure and ensuring that dangerous criminals can never harm anyone ever again. Another argument that those that support the death penalty make is that it provides deterrence. It claims that the threat of execution discourages others from committing violent crimes. The Heritage Foundation reports that some studies suggest capital punishment can deter would-be offenders. From this perspective, the death penalty serves not only as a punishment, but as protection for society. Finally, many believe it brings peace and closure to families' victims. When someone you love is murdered, the death penalty feels like a form of justice. It's kind of like a guarantee that the criminal that took your loved one away pays for their actions. However, despite these arguments, critics question whether these beliefs hold up under any real evidence. Which now brings me to those against the death penalty. Opponents of the death penalty raise serious concerns about fairness, mortality, and cost. First, there's a risk of executing innocent people. The Innocent Person Project reports that since 1973, more than 190 people on death row in the United States have been exonerated. Some were proven innocent through DNA testing years after their conviction. This means the system isn't perfect, and when it comes to life and death, even one mistake is too many. Another thing that critics focus on is moral and ethical concerns. Many human rights organizations believe that killing, even legally, is still wrong. They argue that the state should not have the power to take a human life. They see death penalty as a form of revenge rather than justice. Another strong argument that those against the death penalty make is that it costs a lot of money. The Death Penalty Information Center found that capital punishment cases cost taxpayers about $1 million more on average than non-death penalty cases. This is because of long trials, multiple appeals, and special prison conditions. Many argue that life imprisonment without parole is cheaper and equally effective. To help support their argument, studies question whether the death penalty actually deters crime. The National Research Council reported in 2022 that there is no reliable evidence showing that the death penalty reduces homicide rates more than other punishments. In fact, some states with the death penalty have a higher murder rate than those that don't enforce the death penalty. The death penalty debate is not simple. On one side, people want justice, safety, and closure, and on the other side, people want fairness, mortality, and the chance to correct one's mistake. A balanced approach might be to focus on life imprisonment without parole as a compromise. It protects society, ensures the guilty are punished, but also avoids the irreversible act of taking a life away. Ultimately, the real challenge lies in how you define justice. Is justice to you about revenge, or is it about rehabilitation? Is justice to you about closure, or is it about compassion? These questions show why the death penalty remains such a powerful and emotional issue. The death penalty continues to divide America because it forces us to face one of the hardest questions of all. How do we define justice? Supporters believe it delivers fairness and deters future crimes. Opponents see it as morally wrong, financially wasteful, and dangerously imperfect. No matter which side we lean towards, one truth is always going to remain. Life and death situations should never be taken lightly. Maybe the real question isn't whether the death penalty should exist, but maybe it should be, can we truly judge who deserves to die? Thank you for listening.